thegearnetwork.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Luke Bryan, wishing you a very happy Halloween. Boo.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
This is the Listen In Podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brandon Gorell, here on the Gear Radio Network.
Happy Halloween from us here at the Listen In Podcast, the Gear Radio Network, and as you heard, Luke Bryan earlier on air.
Boo.
Boo, that's right. My name is John Cimino at IamJCMoney on the Twitter. Joined, of course, here on this episode, this fine episode, with the one and only Mr. Brandon Gorell. Say hello, Brandon.
Hey, what's up?
And, of course, you can hear us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever fine podcasts can be heard. And we are brought to you today by the brand new GearNetwork.com. That's right. After 5 friggin' years, we finally got off our ass and gave the website an overhaul. It's good. It's awesome. I'm very, very pumped and excited about it. You can listen to this podcast and any podcast on the network directly from the site. Download it directly from the site or launch it on your favorite podcast app for your phone on the website. It's great, and there's going to be more to come with that. But today we are brought to you by the brand new GearNetwork.com. Yes, so thank you to Ryan Wolf as well for your assist with that. On today's show, we're breaking from just the football talk that we've had the past few weeks, and we're going to talk some baseball. The Washington Nationals are the World Series champions, Brandon, for the first time in franchise history. From there, we'll move over to some NFL talk and then NCAA news. The Board of Governors voted to allow student athletes to be paid for the use of their names, images, and likenesses. What does that mean for NCAA sports in general? And more importantly, is NCAA football for EA Sports going to return?
That's the only thing we care about. I mean,
that's the only
it's
thing.
Nice that they get paid, but at the same time, give me that game back.
I want that game back because I enjoyed creating the player, taking him through college, and then drafting him on Madden.
Yeah.
That's me. I like doing that. So hopefully that is. But we are here, ladies and gentlemen, on this Halloween night as of recording. And it was rainy as hell out there. But Brandon, how was trick-or-treating for you, my man?
It was rainy, wet, windy, and a lot of houses not putting their lights on or not answering the door. It was kind of lame.
Oh, really?
The kids did all right, but it was a pretty shitty night.
See, you know, my block here typically does not have very many lights on. Last year, less than half of the houses on the entire circle. You know where I live, and you know my circle. There's quite a few houses on each side of it, and less than half of those houses last year did not have the lights on. This year, there was more of them. There was more of them with the lights on. So the girls did very, very well this year. We also got off to an earlier start than last year.
We did too. I mean, we got off. I think it was like just after 6.
Yeah, and
it still was pretty empty. I mean, there was a lot of kids out still, but a lot of houses just not doing it. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I hope that that's not something that is going to a trend downward as the years go on, where as society changes and everything like that. Because that Halloween was always magical when I was a kid, and I mean even this whole thing on social media that I saw in the past couple of days leading up to Halloween, where I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 people on social media said something about rescheduling Halloween or rescheduling trick or treating because of the elements or whatever, and I'm just like, what? And then of course
you go in like wet snow and
I remember 1991 or 92 it was snowing out, and I had my costume on.
That was 93 actually.
Was it 93?
Yeah, because that was the infamous night where I saw my dad lose his shit harder than I've ever seen my dad lose his shit.
Really?
Yeah. Uh-oh. So we went out trick-or-treating, and he went with us. I was a freshman in high school. We lived in Greece, and we're going around the neighborhood, and it's miserable, wet snow, and it's starting to accumulate, and it's getting cold. And we're out there doing the trick-or-treating and everything, and my dad had left the house and didn't, want to get his head all wet, so he just grabbed one of my hats. and he grabbed my Chicago White Sox baseball cap that I had because, MWA and all those guys were wearing those hats. So I started buying one too. Right. So I had my White Sox hat, but my White Sox hat, was worn a lot. And when you wear it a lot and in the sun, it starts to fade. So me being not super rich and not having a job yet of my own, I took a Sharpie to that bad boy and made it black again. My dad gets in the house and my mom looks at him and just starts losing her shit laughing. My dad goes and looks in the mirror and he just fucking loses his shit over how fucking stupid I am for putting fucking marker on a hat. So what kind of fucking jarhead does something stupid like this? I'm fucking dying.
Everyone called you a jarhead?
Oh, yeah, man. He was fucking pissed. He was so pissed. I mean, he looked like fucking you just got a bucket of black paint dumped over his face. It's like streaks all over his face.
That's
his fucking beard. How the fuck am I supposed to get this out, you asshole? It was pretty fucking classic. I'll never forget that.
That is great.
I was miserable outside, but man, that conclusion was all worth it.
That is tremendous.
Classic like that.
Because that's pretty damn good. Yeah, that's a good one on him. I can tell you one time, my crazy Halloween story when I was a kid. When Lunchbox and I were kids, we would go into East Irondequoit where my Aunt Angela lives. And at that time, it was, I don't know, it was just a different time and era. Like, it was really, really nice. Not that it's a terrible neighborhood now, but it was much nicer back then, or at least it would appear to me. But we would go down, we would go up and down the street that she lived on. And we would have bags of candy.
Yeah.
And but one
used
time,
to be a thing too, man. You just mentioned that. It's like we used to have the big garbage bags, and it was loaded. My kids got a fucking little Halloween pumpkin, and they couldn't even fill that.
Right? Yeah, I know. And I was telling my girls this. We were, Lunchbox and I would go down one side of the street, and we would have a full brown paper bag filled with candy.
Yeah,
and then we would go back, and my father, who has a gigantic, is just as big of a sweet tooth as me.
Yeah.
Is a little more marble mouthed Italian than I am, though. He's like, all right, let's go back into Angela's house. We're gonna empty it out. We're gonna hit up the other side of the street because he wanted the candy too. He didn't care. He had the munchies and whatever. So we would we go in, we freaking dump the candy, and then we'd switch our masks and or whatever, and then we would go down and we'd go down again, and we'd load up the other. We had a ton of candy, ton of candy. But as we were heading back one year, and I think it was 1989, it was me, Lunchbox, my father, and my cousin Ben were walking. And at the time, I think I was 8 years old. Lunchbox was 9. And we were walking, and some jackwagon drives by and throws eggs at us. Gets my cousin gets Lunchbox right in the face. And my father, he was like, "Hey Ben, you take control of things. I'll be right back." In his super mingy voice. He gets in the car and he takes off after this car. I don't see him for another couple hours, but we get a phone call. About a couple hours after, we get a phone call, and all of a sudden my mom's like, "Shit." So he did something. He caught up to them. He did something dumb, and he got arrested. But that was the life he lived. But Halloween, everybody.
Halloween,
much better back then than it was today. But I'll tell you what. Who is still celebrating? The Washington D.C. Brandon, as the Nationals, the Washington Nationals. The Bryce Harperless Washington Nationals are your World Series champions. It's kind of crazy because nobody thought this was going to happen, but they did end up rallying late on Wednesday night in Houston, to defeat the Astros 6-2 in Game 7 of the World Series. When you look at their overall history, they used to be the Montreal Expos. It's their first championship in franchise history. It was the first time that a Washington, D.C. baseball team made it to the World Series since the 1930s, when that Washington, D.C. team was named the Senators. And I believe that Senators team went on to become either Minnesota or Texas. I can't remember which one the first Senators team became, but the second Senators team became one or the other as well. But anyways, Max Scherzer battled just to get through 5 innings. He surrendered a solo home run to Yuli Gurriel. I think I said his name right in the second. Carlos Gurriel. Carlos Correa came through with an R.
Remember, was the guy that did the Chinese impression and got in trouble a couple of years ago.
Oh, that was him. Yes. Okay, yeah. I remember that. I remember it now.
Yeah, Yuri Gurriel is his name.
Good Lord. Carlos Correa came in with an RBI single in the 5th. And, so Scherzer had 7 hits and 4 walks, only had 3 strikeouts, but regardless, those were the only runs that he would allow. Zach Greinke tossed 6 shutout innings. He came back out to the mound in the 7th, and that's when things began to unravel. Anthony Rendon got the Nationals on the board by pulling a line drive home run to the seats in the left field. Greinke then walked Juan Soto, ending what was at that time considered an outstanding performance.
It was, and he got pulled way too early. I mean, he was at 78. He was at 78 pitches. He was cruising.
Will Harris was then entered in to try and keep the Astros intact. Howie Kendrick, on the other hand, hit a cutter down to the right field line, clanking off the right field foul pole. And the next thing you know, the Nationals had a 3-2 lead. They pretty much kept their foot on the gas the entire time after that. And top of the 9th, the Nats added 2 more runs, bases loaded. Eaton single for good measure, according to the article that I copied and pasted from here. George Springer popped out for out number 1 for the Astros in the bottom of the 9th. Jose Altuve struck out, and then Daniel Hudson ended it by getting Michael Brantley to chase a 3-2 slider for strike 3. Nationals won 6-2. Steven Strasburg, maybe he'll be a Washington National next year. Maybe he won't be, not sure. But this year, he's the World Series MVP. One thing to note, Brandon, the first time in World Series history that a single team lost 4 home games in the World Series. Of course, that would be the Astros. But despite the loss, Houston is projected right now to be the early 2020 favorite to win the World Series next year. Brandon, your thoughts on this series? It was a good one.
It was a good one. It was one that Houston will look back on and go, we gave this one away. Houston, throughout the series, had major issues with leaving guys on base. Last night's game especially, I mean, they got up 2-0 and they had a chance to bury these guys, but they were 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 guys on base last night. The prior game, when they lost 7-2, they were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position and left 6 on base. But then those 2 games that they lost at home to begin the series, they got bombed 12-3, but those were late runs that they got up, but they were also 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 9 left on base in game 2. And then game 1, more of the same. They were 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position with 11 left on base. They left a lot of ducks on the ponds, and if they're going to look back at anything in this series, it's going to be missed opportunities. They were the better team throughout the actual series, but they did not seize the moment like Washington did. Washington had very limited opportunities to score, and they scored on every opportunity that they had. Houston had a shit ton of opportunities to score and barely scored on the opportunities they had. You can't go 3 for 45 in the World Series with runners in scoring position in the games you lost. You can't expect to win a World Series like that. You can't expect to beat many teams like that, but to do that in the World Series and to do it at home, which is the worst part, it's mind-boggling to me. A place where they played so well all season, They go and they lose all 4 games at home. They just cannot come up with a clutch hit to save their life.
Do you think that they put all the pitching eggs in the Yankees basket during the Yankee series?
No, the pitching had nothing to do with it.
No,
the pitching, the starting pitching was solid. Starting pitching was good. If you look at like the scores where they started to get like out of hand, they were in late innings. They were in the late innings of the game. Justin Verlander has never really pitched well in the World Series. Like never. So game 2, the final score was 12-3. It was a 6-run 7th, a 3-run 8th, and a 1-run 9th. It was tied 2-2 going into the 7th. Same thing with last night. Greinke was cruising, and then all of a sudden, AJ Hinch comes out, hits the panic button, and takes Greinke out. Greinke at that point had thrown 80 pitches through 6 1/3. He had given up 2 hits, 2 runs. That run, the second run that he gave up was the walk that he gave up that Hinch took him out after. He was going to be facing Kendrick next, who he got to pop out and ground into a double play earlier in the game. So it made no sense to bring Harris in. Harris just gave up a bomb the night before to Soto. Or no, it was to Rendon, and was like, why would you bring that guy in? Why would you bring that guy in? He's the one that just surrendered the lead last time, and then he comes up and he surrenders the lead again. It was poorly managed by AJ Hinch. It was poorly hit and executed by the Astros, who are a team that do everything well, but for some reason they just could not come up with the clutch hits this series. And it wasn't to do with pitching. It was they were reaching for balls that were out of the strike zone, and they were getting overly eager. And I think the pressure got to them because, there's a lot riding on it. I mean, you were one of the best teams, in baseball history during the regular season. And, you had one of the best pitching staffs, but yet they couldn't support that staff. It was just crazy late inning, magic for the Washington Nationals and complete duds by the Houston Astros. It was it's one they're going to probably look back on and just, man, that one got away.
Right.
Kudos to the Astros. Or not the Astros, the Nationals. They got the hits when they needed them.
Right. They did what they had to do.
Do it pretty, but they did it late. And when they had an opportunity, they would do it. But I still think the biggest mistake of Game 7 was taking Zach Greinke out.
Okay.
He was dominating.
Okay.
They were all off. Everyone was off kilter. The home run that he gave up, it was a hanging changeup. He just didn't get over top of it. He knew as soon as he let it go, it was a home run. But, and he got squeezed on that next batter, too. He threw one right down the middle. And Smoltz was like, I can't believe they didn't give him a strike for that one. He says, all the borderline calls that we've had this series, he's like, that was nothing borderline about that. He's like, that one's, right at the belt, down the center of the plate. I don't really understand what he was looking at. And that made it ball 3 instead of a 2-2 count. So it was 3-1, and then he ended up walking him, and then here comes Hinch. Okay. And Hinch made the panic move and took Greinke out.
Well, now with Washington having won the World Series, Brandon, they are now off of the list of franchises that have never won the World Series. The remaining 6 franchises, the remaining 6 MLB franchises are the Rangers, Padres, Brewers, Mariners, Rockies, and Rays are the only teams in Major League Baseball whose franchises have never won a championship. And, the Rangers came close not too long ago.
Twice,
right.
And lost the Giants and the Cardinals. The Cardinals one's probably the most heartbreaking one. And the Giants kind of wiped the floor with them. Mm-hmm. But that Cardinals one, man, they had those games won twice and blew it and ended up losing.
Yep. And so with that, though, baseball season is over. I admit I kind of slacked on my baseball watching this year. Just had life going on. So didn't really, I caught a few games or whatever, but this was kind of my baseball bye week or bye season, so to speak. Oh, Niners just scored again, I think, or a flag. There's a flag.
I don't know. I'm behind in my feed. I've got the Amazon one on my
Yeah,
laptop. Okay.
I've got YouTube TV going on right now, but that's actually an interesting segue over to the core of this particular podcast, which is the football talk portion of it. Brandon, still 2 unbeaten teams remaining. The 49ers right now, they're 7-0. They're playing the 3-4-1 Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. Currently, it stands right now at 14-7 in favor of the 49ers. The Patriots are 8-0. They play the 5-2 Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Now, Brandon, the Niners' remaining schedule after this week, because obviously Arizona's going on right now, but they play Seattle next week, Arizona the week after, Green Bay, then they're at Baltimore, at New Orleans. Atlanta comes to Santa Clara. The Rams come to Santa Clara, and then they finish the season at Seattle. The Patriots' remaining schedule, including this week, they're at Baltimore, and he just dropped it. He had 6 in his hands. He just dropped it. But the Patriots' remaining schedule, including this week, they're at Baltimore on Sunday. Then they have a bye. They're at Philly, Dallas, Houston, KC, 3 home games at Foxborough. Then they're at Cincinnati and finish off the season at home with Buffalo and Miami. So I list all of this here, and I say to you, Brandon, predict the final regular season record for each team. Because I'm looking at these two. I'm looking at these two teams, and I see that there are some, historical comparisons with both teams here. And I'll get to the. I spoke on the Patriots historical comparison with their defense a couple of weeks ago, but now there's one that popped up on the Niners. When I'll touch base on that, but taking a look at the schedule here, I see as far as the Patriots go, Baltimore, maybe Philadelphia, depending on which team shows up. Yeah. Houston and KC will be the ones that give them some kind of trouble. Yeah. But I think that when comparing it to the Niners schedule, Seattle, Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, and LA.
And Seattle a second time.
I would give them the split with Seattle, if anything. But what do you think, based on what we know now and what we see coming up here? What do you think? How do you think the Niners and Patriots both finish this season?
I can see the Patriots being 14-2, and the 49ers being probably 11-5, maybe 12-4.
I have them 12-4, only splitting the Seattle series.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, they always seem to choke on their chode when they play Seattle. Even when they were good, like, they always would find a way to suck it against Seattle.
It's true. It did lead to an infamous Richard Sherman post-game promo that he cut on Michael Crabtree one year. You remember that one? That was freaking crazy.
Remember that one.
That was hilarious.
Now he's a 49er.
Yeah, now he's a 49er. Imagine that. I have them splitting Seattle. I have them going 12-4 the Niners. 12-4 the Niners. I have them splitting Seattle, but I have them losing to as well Green Bay, Baltimore, and New Orleans. I think that they lose those 3 games, but then pick it back up to win at Atlanta. They'll edge out the Rams, and then I think losing at Seattle is probably where they end the season. Yeah. They'll beat the Seahawks at home.
It's probably going to be like Seattle's probably going to be battling for some kind of a playoff position too, I'm guessing, at that point. So yeah, that is going to be one that they're probably not going to need as much as Seattle. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I mean, the 49ers are good. Again, I'm still waiting for like a real test. I still think that Carolina was their biggest test, and I just don't buy into Carolina. I mean, I think that they've been winning on a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Arizona just stopped them on 4th and goal.
Wow. See, I'm on 1st and goal right now.
Are you on 1st and goal? Oh, roles reversed.
This is yeah. Normally I'm watching on TV though, so.
Or did Cliff Kingsbury get the timeout? Did he call the timeout first? He called the timeout.
Oh.
And they didn't call it. Oh, look at that. Wow.
I just saw the one where he dropped the touchdown.
You just saw that now?
Yeah.
Man, I feel like roles are definitely reversed here because usually it's me that has the big delay. You're in.
Jump to live. Oh, look at that! I'm live now.
If you're watching,
oh,
did you?
Yeah.
If you typically you're in at this point you're in week 10 of the NFL season, and I'm wrapping up week 8 because of a cord cutter. And there we go.
Timeout.
Yep.
What a dumb fucking call.
Yep.
Dumb timeout call. That's why the Cardinals are 3-4-1.
That's why they are.
Fucking head coach.
Unbelievable. Wow.
They hustle to the line and throw this quick little pass.
Yep.
That's why the Cardinals suck.
Yep.
That's embarrassing. You stop them on fourth and goal. You get the ball at half, too. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, instead of going for a tie, now you got to try to get to 21-14.
Yep.
Ugh.
Wow. That's terrible.
That's frustrating.
That is terrible.
That's losing football, folks.
That's how you do it. More on the 49ers, Brandon. The 1991 Philadelphia Eagles were then coached by Buddy Ryan and led by Reggie White, had one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. The Eagles allowed 3,549 total yards that season, easily the best mark ever in a 16-game season. And while that record might seem unbreakable, given how much the NFL offenses have improved since then, the average defense allows 45 more yards per game this season than it did in 1991. But these 49ers evidently are doing something extraordinary. They're on pace to threaten that 1991's Eagles record. Through 7 games, the 49ers have allowed an average of 224.4 yards per game. That puts them on pace to allow 3,590 yards this season, which would be just 41 yards more than those Eagles allowed, and the second fewest ever in a 16-game season. So this 49ers defense, schedule aside and whom they've played, and that was kind of your big point, I think, with the Patriots when I first mentioned their historic the records that they were approaching with their defense. That said,
it's not
these are teams of professionals. But I do want to see again in those later stretch there when they play, Seattle next week and then Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, and even Atlanta in garbage time, where Matt Ryan, soars. Right. That's something that I want to see if that record will hold up. I don't think it will, but it's something to keep in mind because, quite frankly, I didn't think, but I didn't. I say that, but I didn't think that the undefeated San Francisco 49ers would hold up still at this point. So,
but I mean, who they played. There's not a team on their schedule that has a winning record except for the Rams, and the Rams, when they got the Rams, were not. They're not the Rams, and right. Todd Gurley didn't play that game either, and they won 20-7.
Right.
Right. Todd Gurley in that game, totally different story. I think. I mean, Jared Goff threw for 78 yards, even though they had no Todd Gurley. He only had 24 attempts that game.
Right.
I mean, they won, basically on grit. So I'm not, and at the time the Rams were 3-3. So I mean, again, I don't look at their resume and go, "Wow, this is an impressive team." I mean, this is a team that beat Washington 9-0. Oh great, They beat the Panthers 51-13, but the Panthers kind of, shot themselves in the damn foot.
Right.
I mean, 3 interceptions from Kyle Allen, who hadn't really done much bad things all season. Jimmy Garoppolo, he wasn't impressive. He was 18 of 22 for 175 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, in a 51-point game. And that's what your quarterback's putting up.
Right.
So, I think that they rely on a lot of smoke and mirrors in Carolina. And I think that the 49ers, they're a good team. I'm not discrediting them, but I'm also not ready to say that they're better than, say, like a Green Bay or New Orleans that have been battle tested. That have played upper echelon teams, that have played more dynamic teams, that have played teams that have winning records. I just don't want to put them in that category. I mean, even New England is, to a degree, is not. I mean, they're the best in the AFC for sure. Their defense is playing like all world right now, but the offense really hasn't clicked that well, and the Patriots haven't beat a winning team yet either, except for the Bills. and they barely escaped the Bills. So, I'm interested to see what happens with the Patriots coming up because they've got the Ravens this week. On our weekly pick'em, went back and forth on that one nonstop with, should I pick the Ravens? Should I pick the Patriots? And I'm like, well, it's the Patriots. But then I'm like, well, the Ravens are at home. But then I'm like, well, it's the Patriots. And then I'm like, well, Lamar Jackson. And I'm like, it's still the Patriots. So
yeah,
it's tough to bet against them. But I would not be shocked if the Ravens beat them this Sunday.
Yeah, no, it definitely wouldn't shock me at all with that.
The Texans, they're an anomaly. They always
Right.
seem to come up flat against New England, and I don't know why.
Well, I mean, they do, but Deshaun Watson, if I remember correctly, has been hurt several times playing against the Patriots. So, now speaking of the Texans and being hurt, JJ Watt again out for the season with a torn pectoral. That is the third time in 4 years that he's had a season-ending injury. Yeah. So I asked Brandon at this point, at what point is it worth him trying to come back and play again? Should he, for the sake of his health, hang it up?
I don't know. I don't think so. A torn pectoral is a muscle. I mean, that shit happens kind of commonly in the NFL, especially with defensive linemen. I wouldn't say it's something that's like, he's not going to have problems walking because of a torn pectoral.
No.
Like if he's had like multiple knee scopes and stuff, or, he has a serious neck injury or something, then it probably, but a torn pectoral, I don't think that's something he needs to consider retirement for. I mean, I think he's just unlucky more than anything. I think he works out too much. I think that's what typically happens to these guys that just get monstrous and they're like no body fat and they go out there and just like are just living in the gym. You got to give those muscles some breaks. And then, cause then you go beat them up like every week playing football. Sometimes you got to give those things a break. And I think that sometimes there are guys that overwork out, and I think it, leads to more injuries. And a torn pectoral is a very good example of somebody who's probably overusing those muscles.
Okay.
So I don't think it's he needs to go away and retire type thing.
All right. And then one more injury piece of news to note before we head to commercial. Your boy, Brandon, Devontae Adams, he's back at practice, participated in practice on a limited basis on Wednesday. He had not, of course, practiced in suffering turf toe late in a week 4 fluky loss. In my opinion, I say fluky because it was a fluky loss to Philadelphia. The Packers, however, Brandon, have gone 4-0 without him, and with quarterback and MVP candidate Aaron Rodgers relying on other pass catchers in Adams' absence.
Not if you're Stephen A. Smith.
Oh yeah, but that's Stephen A. Smith.
He's not a MVP candidate to me.
I only listen to Stephen A. Smith when he shits on the Cowboys.
That's my Stephen A. pause.
That's indeed his Stephen A. pause. That was great. His return would undoubtedly boost the offense. We all know this. So Brandon, going to commercial, I have to ask you, take your homer hat off for a minute, but have the Packers overtaken the Saints and the 49ers as the favorites in the NFC?
I think so.
I'm not saying this is a homer.
No, I don't say that as a homer at all. They've been battle tested. They've had to find ways to win. Mm-hmm. They haven't come out of the gates and won the game running away. They've played one losing team, and that's the Broncos. They beat the Bears. Well, now the Bears are a losing team because they missed a field goal last week in a certain win. But they lost to the Eagles on a fluky game. We lost 3 wide receivers in the span of 2 series. And it cost us down the stretch. Especially when you have Devontae Adams had 180 yards receiving, which is 20 yards more than Carson Wentz threw for the whole game. Mm-hmm. They beat the Cowboys pretty badly. I mean, 34-24 was the final, but they were up 31-3. The Lions, they beat, in a tight one. They hammered on the Raiders, and then they beat the Chiefs last week in a tough game because sometimes when you come out with a backup, especially when you have a guy like Andy Reid, who is just really good at playing to a quarterback's strength or playing to a player's strengths, and designing a game plan to fit them, you really don't know what you're going to get. And Green Bay ran into a situation where basically they were just getting the ball 3 steps, throw the ball. There was no opportunity for Green Bay to get pressure on Matt Moore. He did not hold the ball very long at all on many snaps. So it was one they had to gut out. They can beat you in many ways, and they've got, Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield, who is leading the league in touchdowns right now. He's also become a receiver threat, but you've also got Jamal Williams. We've done this without Devontae Adams for the last 4 games. He's probably one of the top 5 receivers in the game right now. They're winning games in all facets. One week it's the defense coming up big. Another week it's the offense coming up big. Another week it's the running game coming up big. I haven't seen that from like New Orleans has relied heavily on their defense, especially with Breeze being out. But the games that New Orleans won, they didn't really face an offense that was going to really test the boundaries of that defense. I mean, they played the Bucks, the Jags, the Bears, and the Cardinals. Not really dynamic teams. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to kind of run into trouble. They did play the Seahawks and the Cowboys too, but the Cowboys just they're an anomaly to me. I mean, they're good against bad teams, but they're bad against good teams.
All right.
So, they're a good team, and the Saints are really good. It's hard to say, but I look at the schedules and who each team's played, and the fact that Green Bay's had to kind of, rely on a different facet each week to kind of get them over the hump. And even when things go wrong for them, or when they've had drives where they've had multiple penalties, and you think, okay, that penalties usually kill a drive for a lot of teams, but somehow they've still found a way to get in the end zone lately. With Rodgers becoming, I feel like Rodgers right now is the sharpest he's probably been in the last 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think that this offense, just with the new coach, it suits him. It's fresh, it's new. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is somebody that, you have to kind of keep it fresh and new with him in order to keep him engaged and keep him, keep his interest. I feel like despite the fact that he's good and he's a bad man under McCarthy, to your earlier points in earlier podcast, it was the same McCarthy ball isms, and it was getting stale, and he probably was losing a lot of interest in that. He knew it like the back of his hand. This he had to clearly learn, and he had to, and I think he, being the gamer that he is, accepted that challenge and, bought into the system, and Matt LaFleur bought into him, obviously, because why wouldn't you? And it's worked wonders right now. I mean, I would argue they should be undefeated right now.
They should be. But then again, I'm not going to say that they shouldn't be, or that they should be, because they very well, I mean, they got pretty lucky with a couple of beneficial calls against the Lions. They could have lost that game to the Lions. But those are the things that they do, is some teams will get those breaks and they won't capitalize. Green Bay has been able to capitalize. And even on some of their own mistakes, they've been really good about, overcoming those mistakes. And that's where I think that's where they're going to make their mark when it comes playoff time, is that they know, they've been challenged. They've seen, what happens when you have a couple of turnovers or you get a bunch of bad calls against you. They know how to overcome it, and they've had to do it. I just feel like a team like the 49ers, who haven't really had much of a challenge on their schedule, haven't had to really overcome anything. I think that's where they could run into some struggles. The Saints, I think the Saints are probably I would say they're probably dead on with Green Bay, because they're both pretty balanced attacks. They both have pretty dynamic offenses. They both got Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They both got running backs that are going to keep you honest and give more openings to the quarterback. But also they have game-changing receivers too between Thomas and Adams. So I would put Green Bay just ahead of New Orleans and definitely ahead of San Francisco.
I think come playoff time, the NFC especially is going to be really fun to watch during the playoffs.
That number one
really,
is going to be
really good games. It's going to be some really good games.
The Dome, or is it going to come through Lambeau? And that's
right.
Part of me kind of wishes it would come to the Dome because Green Bay's going to play better football that way.
Right, exactly.
And Lambeau Field's nice. It's cool. The nostalgia of that, but it doesn't really lend itself to a real sharp, crisp.
But if they end up playing a team like the Saints,
right,
that benefits them.
It does benefit them. But
you know what I mean? They're not going to
grinding team like the 49ers. That might be a little more challenging. So
that is also true.
That's why I'm not sure.
All right. Well, we're gonna break on that. When we come back, we will talk a little bit about the NCAA news, get our takes on that, and then as well talk about the Gear Network / Listen In Pick'ems and who is the champion every week. Spoiler alert: it was not either of us. It was Sleazy Mike from the Wrestling Show.
Yeah, but he doesn't count for this show.
He doesn't count. No. But we tied last week, so no.
No, I won last week.
You what on the points?
Yep.
It was because I picked the grand total score of 1, wasn't it?
No, I don't know. But it just showed when I was looking at it, when I went to do my picks this week, it showed I think I had 9, you had 8 maybe.
No, we both had 11 last week. I had 9, you had 9 2 weeks ago. I had 8. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on the other side.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll talk on the other side of the break. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Stick around, we'll be right back. IndyCard Media is your one-stop shop for quality designs at a quality price. They offer merchandising, company branding, event posters, custom clothing designs, and so much more. Check out their gallery of past designs by visiting facebook.com/IndyCard Media and tell them what you think. That's IndyCard Media, 337-446-4331 or IndyCardMafia@gmail.com. Tell them that we sent you. Again, 337-446-4331. IndyCard Media. Bring your designs to life. We are back, and again, this podcast here brought to you by the brand new GearNetwork.com. Go give it a look. GERENetwork.com. Take a look at some of the different shows. Listen to some of the episodes there. Download them for later if you want. And soon enough, you will see some of our sponsors on there as well that you can go through and support. If you like what you see, there's a donate button up there. You can donate to us in any denomination via the PayPal. We would appreciate that. All right, Brandon, NCAA news. The NCAA Board of Governors on Tuesday voted unanimously to allow student athletes to be paid for the use of their names, images, and likenesses. But the caveat to that is that once its 3 divisions decide on rules for such opportunities, so it's subjective right now.
Of course.
The board, which met in Atlanta, asked each division to create rules between now and January 2021. The action was based on recommendations from the NCAA Board of Governors, federal and state legislation working groups, which includes presidents, commissioners, athletic directors, administrators, and student athletes. This came after California, of course, passed a Fair Pay to Play Act, which would go into effect in 2023. Other states are looking at possible legislation. The California law would allow athletes to sign endorsement deals and licensing contracts, something NCAA rule makers will address. Now, that was the big thing which stopped the NCAA football games from being produced because there was a likeness issue. They were using student athletes' likenesses and not necessarily using their names, but using their likenesses, their attributes, their numbers, and things like that, and they weren't getting compensated for it, while EA and the NCAA were profiting pretty good off of those games, which were freaking awesome. So the NCAA said that the new rules should continue to make compensation for play permissible and that athletes are not employees of the universities. Brandon, I ask you this, good or bad move on the NCAA Board of Governors' part?
TBD. I think it's a good step in the right direction. It's how they're going to execute it. It's that whole, it's up to boards to decide. And I don't know if I trust it. It's one of those, it's almost like the XFL when like that player that he got drafted and all of a sudden he decided to quit.
Because they weren't paying enough.
Yeah,
they weren't paying enough.
They advertise
they don't have the
this, but then he doesn't.
Right. But yeah, I mean that in that case, I think the XFL thought that they were going to have to compete with the AAF, and to an even lesser degree, the Arena Football League, the AFL, which is now folded for the season as well. So yeah, I read that the other day that they're
amazing that like only the NFL can like produce a product that stays going.
Yeah,
I mean the CFL is sure, but that's Canada.
Yeah, that's Canada, and that's part of the reason why I'm kind of like, behind the XFL a little bit here. All kidding aside, with the funny tweets and the exclamation point and your Twitter tag for every stupid piece of XFL news. Like, I want to see another league work. And the AFL, like the Arena Football League, it's been around for a while, but the one that just folded, the most recent incarnation of the AFL, actually used to be the AFL 2. Right. Because the original AFL folded, but then the owner of the AFL 2 bought those assets, restored everything. But it was originally the AFL 2 that was this one that just recently folded, but I don't know. Anyways, back to the NCAA. I'm with you on that one. I don't know how. It's a very, very fine line that they're gonna that they have to walk here, because it almost defeats from one aspect. It almost defeats the purpose of sending your kid to college. Yeah, to get that education for the post football life.
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, no, I always hate that argument where it's like, well, you're getting a free education, buddy. Like,
no. I don't mean it like that.
Okay.
But in the same, I don't think that they should be going there and becoming millionaires while there. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, pay them enough to, give them a salary so that way they can buy food and they can,
it's not going to be set up where they can make millions. It's going to be set up where they can get, livable wage and make some money off of it. But if you're talking about, profiting off their likenesses, that's going to be a big pool. Is going to be it's going to be like kind of like music streams, where we have a music stream that like the artist gets like 3 cents for every time your whole album is played and complete. It's not going to be anything where it's like, okay, yeah, there's tons of money exchange in hand and these guys are going to be millionaires. It's not even going to be close. The NCAA is not going to look to do anything to lose money. And if they're going to be making kids millionaires, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to evenly distribute it some way, shape, or form. And it's going to end up kind of watering it down. And these guys are going to be making, they're going to make some decent money off of it if they're good. But at the same time, like, I don't see anyone, becoming a millionaire in college. I just can't see it. I mean, because they can't sign endorsement deals still. Like, they can't do that stuff. It's just going to be for their likenesses. So, like, if they sell jerseys with their names and numbers on it, they'll get a portion of that. But the NCAA is not going to give up a bunch of that. They're going to give up some of it, but they're not going to give them all the proceeds from their jersey sales. Okay. Video game likenesses. I mean, EA is not going to give you a ton of money because they're using your name and number in a game. So I don't think there's a lot of opportunities to be making millions. The millions that can be made for a lot of these guys are off of endorsements and major contracts. And then it doesn't sound like they're going to get a major contract.
All right. That's
I don't see
okay,
them changing I don't see them changing the rule where they can be like, oh yeah, you can get endorsement deals now, because then it becomes a business.
right.
These kids don't go to college for that. But
Right.
I do believe that they should get some kind of share if somebody else is profiting off of them, especially when you look at the coaching game. Like, coaches are millionaires, assistant coaches are millionaires, heads of universities and athletic departments are millionaires. But these players are going there and they're like, well, you get a scholarship. Well, cool. You get a scholarship.
But they need to eat.
But not everybody does.
Right.
And yeah, that scholarship doesn't include meal plans. It doesn't include their clothing. It just, pays for you to go to school, room and board.
All right.
So,
we'll file
there's
this.
gotta be something run, but I just don't trust the NCAA to make
touchdown Arizona.
Yep. Just saw it.
Could have easily been a tie game, Cliff Kingsbury, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of Arizona and 49ers, the game that's playing there, this takes us to the Listen and Pick 'em, Brandon, where we discussed nobody was the champion this week. Out of the two of us, we both tied at 11 for week 8. So now we head into week 9. 49ers
I still
Cardinals,
lead you by 1 point. So I'm still
overall
in
the season, you are the champion of the season, not every week.
Yeah.
Logistics, Brandon.
The weeks are still part of the season, though.
The weeks comprise the season, yes. But if we're talking specifically for week 8, you are not the champion on week 8. Nobody is. We tied. Anyways, thank you. 49ers Cardinals. I'm assuming you picked the Niners, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I did too. So moving.
Actually, I get the tiebreaker this week because I beat you in fantasy. So
shut up, Brandon. Texans Jaguars. Who do you got?
I got the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm. Redskins Bills.
I got the Bills.
Bears Eagles.
I got the Eagles. The Bears are a fucking train wreck right now, and now the media is getting in their claws in it, and they're starting to, Alex Nagy's starting to be, kind of bitchy, and Trubisky is getting jumped all over, and just the team's just not what it was.
Right.
They're a mess right now.
Right.
So
Titans Panthers.
I got the Panthers in a rebound game. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill.
Colts Steelers.
I got the Colts. Colts are playing good football right now.
Vikings Chiefs.
I have the Chiefs regardless. They're at home. Minnesota's just not as good on the road. Kansas City's defense is improving. But there also is a chance that Mahomes might play this week.
I heard that there was a chance that he might play this week. Even if he does, I don't know how that would be. And I hate to go against the future Hall of Famer, and hate to go against the future Hall of Famer's team, but I'm going to. I actually picked the Vikings. I think that they are, I hate to say Captain Kirk, your boy, but he's doing enough. He's doing enough. He's playing well.
He's playing well against bad teams.
Right. But
let's not get it twisted.
But Kansas City,
they got a touchdown last week against a
Matt Moore led Kansas City team is not a Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City team,
and I especially that too against Green Bay, and Green Bay really had to grind that one out.
All right, that's why
I went with them.
I'm going to take the Vikings, despite the fact that that Arrowhead is a tough place to play. Here's an interesting one, Brandon. Because I don't know what I want to happen with this one. The New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins.
I got the Jets. I'm not picking the Dolphins. The Dolphins come out, they play all world in the first quarter, and then they just go back into tank mode for the rest of the game.
Yeah. I picked the Jets, but it would be very Jetsy of them to lay an egg. And part of me hopes that
Adam Gaze.
Part of me hopes that they do. One, because I would hope that would seal the fate of Adam Gase, number one. But
you in the driver's seat for that number one pick again, because you got the tiebreak against the Dolphins.
Well, number two is it would put Cincinnati, whom just benched Andy Dalton. It would put Cincinnati back in the driver's seat for number one. And could you imagine, with all of the Dolphins fans talking about tanking for Tua, they want Tua, they want this, they want Tua. Could you imagine if Cincinnati? What's that?
What if Tua stays for his senior season?
But not only what if he stays for a senior season, but what if Cincinnati was the first overall and they selected him? You know,
right?
And nothing has brought me much such joy in the football season besides who was that garbage team that are the 1-7 for the New York Jets? Who was the garbage team that they beat? I can't remember. But
the Dallas Cowboys.
That's right. So besides that, seeing Dolphins fan just completely go unhinged this entire season, like some of them are like, we know they're tanking for Tua, but come on, man, complete a pass, you know. And then, you know, but just to see Dolphins fans get mad.
Magic happen this week.
Imagine
go downhill for them.
That would be great. So I did, for the sake of the game, I picked the Jets to win, but I think in my heart I kind of want the Dolphins to win. Did they fumble?
It is right now, but we got to see what the replay is.
Yeah, there's that slide. There's the slide celebration that everybody does now.
He is down.
Yeah, he's down. Okay, so Jets over the Dolphins. Okay, Lions Raiders.
I have the Raiders at home.
Ooh,
I just think the Raiders are more competent than teams are giving them. I think Carr is playing his best football this year. And last week, I mean, they just could not buy a break against the Texans. Carr was great. Just Deshaun Watson, came up big when he needed to and got the leading touchdown in the fourth. And, Carr just, they ran out of steam on offense. Couple tough breaks, a couple of drops, and, who knows? The Raiders could have at least gone for the tie and sent it to overtime, but I feel like they've been on the cusp. I mean, they were kind of stride for stride with Green Bay until that Carr turnover when he, went into the end zone, and that kind of flipped the game. But I mean, they beat the Bears, in London, or was that Mexico? I can't remember. It was one of those foreign places that they played. They beat the Colts. One of the Colts' only 2 losses. They got kind of smacked by the Vikings. They lost to the Chiefs, but they had one bad quarter against the Chiefs. It was 4 touchdowns second quarter, and then that was it. And then they beat the Broncos. So the Lions, I feel like the Lions are on the cusp of collapse. And I just think that the Raiders are the right team to kind of push them over that.
To kind of push them over that edge?
Yeah. And they're playing at home, and I don't know. I like the way Carr is playing right now.
Okay.
So
that's fair. I chose the Lions pretty much for the same reasons. I think that the Raiders and Lions are very evenly matched. Depending on whether or not you buy into Detroit fans' hysteria about the referees being solely against that franchise and that team, they're a couple of bad calls away from having a winning record right now.
Yeah.
So they're tough, they're gritty, they'll fight. And the Raiders are also tough and gritty, but they're on, I think, the equivalent playing field. They're not upper echelon teams. They're kind of like, middle of the road teams. Two very evenly matched middle of the road teams
that if they continue their trajectory will be like playoff teams the next couple of years.
Right. Exactly.
I think if the Raiders keep making good picks with the draft picks that they get and continue to develop the young talent that they have, I think the Raiders will be good.
I think this match here, this was my back and forth pick of the week. As far as that, because they're to me, just from what I've seen, they're very evenly matched on a lot of different things. I took the Lions though, because I'm not fully sold on the Raiders, despite the fact that I do see your point. Derek Carr is playing some good ball. Okay, Seahawks Bucks.
Seahawks. Sorry, I was in the middle of a yawn.
No worries. Now you were talking about earlier with the Eagles, with the Bears, with how the media's kind of sunk their claws into them. And they're starting to unravel. The same could sort of be said for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns play
about Denver too.
Right. The Browns play the Broncos, and there are two interesting stories that have gone between last game and this game. One, Joe Flacco criticized Vic Fangio and the Broncos' ability to close out games or go for the win, and he said that it seems like they're playing to not lose the game, or they're afraid to lose and not take chances or whatever. And then mysteriously he's got a neck injury and he's done. But and then on Cleveland side, after all of the hype and everything that has happened in this past offseason, Freddie Kitchens is really not the best head coach out there right now. Granted, he has one more win than Adam Gase, but that's besides the case. Baker Mayfield was asked quite a bit about some of the team's performance and things like that or whatever. It got a little heated with a reporter whom was kind of giving Baker Mayfield the business a bit.
Yeah.
And Mayfield didn't like it. He stormed off the press conference, and that caused the controversy or whatever. But regardless of all of that crap that's gone on, there's still a game to be played. Who do you got?
I got the Browns. I would have liked to have seen him do a Brett Myers and be like, Hey, boom,
out of here. I forgot about that, but that's an all-time classic there. Packers, Chargers, obviously the Packers.
Yeah, it's the Packers.
Patriots,
it's not even that, like the Chargers have just, they just played a Bears team who is also really good at giving away wins. But I thought for sure that the Chargers were going to find another way to blow a win. Snatch another victory from another defeat from the jaws of victory.
Exactly.
They've been on that trajectory this season, and it's pretty bad.
Now, you said earlier as well in the podcast, Brandon, you were back and forth: Patriots, Patriots, Ravens. Last chance. Who you got?
Closed my eyes and I picked the Patriots.
Okay, I took the Patriots with my eyes open. You're just not going against the. I'm just not going against the
defense. But at the same time, man, like Lamar Jackson is like a human cheat code.
Right. So
if anybody's going to break that defense, it's going to be him.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I think that you can plan for a quarterback in the pocket and shut down one of his receivers. You can plan for a running back and shut down the running game, make the quarterback throw. But I just don't know how you plan for both. A guy that can throw it and also run. You just don't know what he's going to do on each down. And
it's going to be interesting.
Ability is going to be interesting to see how it happens and how it shakes out.
Well, if anyone can do it, Bill Belichick has been known to do that and to figure those things out. So
agreed.
I can't imagine that, like the meme that went out during Miami week and Washington week, where it's like he's Bill Belichick studying hard for preparation for the Redskins game. And it's a picture of Belichick sleeping. I don't think that's his game plan this week. I'm pretty sure he's probably putting in the hours. And then finally, Monday Night Football, Dallas, New York.
I got the Cowboys.
I got the Cowboys as well. What's your predicted final score there?
27-20.
27-20. I have 35-13. Dallas.
Wow, that's a big blowout.
That is. You know what?
And I'm giving up some points. You don't have faith in your boy Daniel Jones?
I feel
more
like
than 13.
I feel like Lord and Savior Daniel Jones, might hit a small bump in the road. He might still throw for 500 yards, but, only have 14 points to show for it.
Throw for 500 yards and turn it over 11 times.
That's right. And touchdown Niners.
Yeah. Does anybody want to cover? I keep seeing these third down plays. And they keep getting the 49ers in third down, and then each one of these, they're like, guys are wide open.
I don't get it.
Like, nobody covered him. And that's Patrick Peterson's man.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be
he tripped there. He tripped. Peterson did. He lost his footing there.
He stumbled because he got beat.
Right.
And trip. He got his ankles broke.
All right. Well, looks like we'll definitely be 1-0 in our picks after today. But all right, that's all I've got as far as sports and everything is concerned. For the record, for those of you that might have heard the story about me trolling News 10 NBC's page with Gardner Minshew photos, I am happy to report I have hereby been blocked from that Facebook page. So
that's amazing to me that somebody would care that much about Gardner Minshew postings.
I got a couple
site that they would just go and say, you know what, you can't do that here anymore.
I started getting posts, replies. Mind you, more of the reactions, the replies were, of laughter emojis or whatever. But I started getting, replies to certain, from certain people like, oh, do you not have a job? And this is what you do. This is what you have to do. Oh, you're stupid and blah, blah, blah. So I was getting the haters for that. Mm-hmm. And my response to that was just hitting the laugh emoji. But the aforementioned Sleazy Mike from the wrestling show at Sleazy the Vat Man was my tag team partner with that. So I'd drop the Gardner Minshew picture and then he'd drop a Gardner Minshew fact underneath it. Yeah. In the style of Chuck Norris facts. He got a goddamn top fan badge. I got banned from the page.
You get banned. He gets a top fan.
It is what it is.
Sacrifices had to be made, I guess.
Indeed. Greater good. And it makes for a good story to tell. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a podcast here. We're going to wrap it up and let you know again, this podcast sponsored by the all-new GearNetwork.com. God damn it. Take a look at it. It's an overhaul, man. 5 years we had the same site. 2 of those years I ignored the damn thing, but won't be ignoring it anymore. The mucho interactivo, and should be fun, man. So, Brandon, thanks for joining me here, and let's do this again next week, shall we?
We shall.
Alrighty, and perhaps finally, for the 3rd week in a row, I say this, in person.
We'll see. We'll see
where life takes us. All right, good day to you, sir.
Good day to you as well.
So long, everybody. Good night now. Flavor Flav. See us out, and then tag in Luke Bryan, will you?
Yeah, boy!
Hang on, one more thing before you go. Remember, listen to our sponsors following this podcast, as that does help this podcast and this network out in a way that we appreciate very, very much. So if you could just ride it out 30 to 60 more seconds after this podcast is over, listen to those commercials, it would be doing us a very, very big solid. And again, we thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. For more, log on to GearNetwork.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Luke Bryan, wishing you a very happy Halloween. Boo.